Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know, it's hard to be two things at once. In the field that I used to work in, a lot of people would label themselves as generalists. They could do a little bit of all, but honestly, most people in that position end up kind of like a jack of all trades, master of none, and it never seems to really remain that way. Over time, people tend to specialize, and that's because we're simple people with simple brains, and we simply just do better when we focus on getting good at one thing. That's of course the logistical element of it, but then there's also the emotional and I guess cultural or interpersonal element of it, where you can't be two-faced, you can't be multiple people, you can't be living multiple lives at once. The only thing that's sustainable is to be your true authentic self, to focus on being one person. And see, that's what the Democrats aren't getting. They want their cake and they want to eat it too. They want to present Joe Biden as two different people. Joe Biden, the uniter, just Uncle Joe trying to bring America together. And then of course, Dark Brandon, taking on the ultra mega threat, the tough guy. But you obviously can't do both, you can't be both. Let's take a look at the newest contrived left-wing narrative. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, it's the era of tough guy Dark Brandon. It all started after this moment. I don't know if you guys remember. Well, of course you do.
They asked me, would I like to debate this gentleman? And I said, no. I said, if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Joe Biden, Mr. Tough Guy, Mr. Listen Fat, I could do more push-ups than you. During the early days of the 2020 campaign, often made it known publicly how he'd love to take Donald Trump behind the bleachers to teach him a lesson, 1960s high school tough guy Joe. Well, at some point there was a strategy to latch on to that sort of presentation of Joe as the tough guy taking on Donald Trump, and I think the specific aim of that strategy or that marketing scheme was to fight back against the idea that Joe Biden has dementia or is withering in old age. They wanted to replace this.
What must be what? True international effort to pressure.
I was going to foot.
All men and women created by go. You know the thing.
With of course this.
Look, Fat, look, here's the deal. And you want to check my shape on, let's do push-ups together here, man. Let's run. Let's do whatever you want to do.
And of course, with Joe sinking in the polls, Democrats are desperately trying to now present him as Dark Brandon. Biden often lashes out at Trump in private using vulgar terms, according to this report. Politico's West Wing playbook noted on Thursday that in private, President Joe Biden often refers to former President Donald Trump, who he will most likely face later this year in a rematch of their 2020 contest, in vulgar, unpresidential ways. According to Politico, Biden recalled an incident where Trump remarked about Pelosi, who had been the target of an intruder with a hammer during a speech in Pennsylvania last month. Biden began to say, "What a sick," before stopping himself while addressing the crowd. But in private, according to Politico, Biden does not hold back. The president has described Trump to longtime friends and close aides as a, quote, sick F who delights in others' misfortunes. According to one of the people who has spoken with the president, Biden recently said of Trump, "What an effing a-hole this guy is." So obviously this is a contrived Dark Brandon puff piece released by Politico to make Donald Trump seem like the bully, and Joe Biden is the angry, righteous man, ready to fight back and call it like it is. But the whole thing's a little bit confusing, considering Joe Biden's constant confused state. Maybe Joe Biden in those moments is actually referring to Corn Pop.
And Corn Pop was a bad dude. And he ran a bunch of bad boys.
How do we know Biden even knows what's going on or who he's even talking about? I mean, that's the first question. And secondly, not buying it. And this seems like a trash strategy, not only because I don't think this necessarily sells well, considering we know exactly who and what Joe Biden is after 4 long years of campaign plus first term exposure. We've seen the guy. I mean, we know he's a complete kook who can barely take 2 steps, let alone be the tough guy ready to challenge you to a push-up contest. There's that element, and then there's of course the other element, the whole two-faced element of it all. Biden's campaign strategists love going on MSNBC saying they want to lean into the whole Dark Brandon thing.
This is a guy who loves talking to people, and campaigning requires
more than most people.
More than most people. Certainly more than me.
And is he game for all the digital proposals you're putting forward?
Oh, absolutely. All the sort of Dark Brandon jokes and videos you've seen, he's leaning right into them. So
there you go.
Yeah.
They want to lean into the Joe Biden tough guy image, but how does that line up with Joe Biden the unifier? His 2020 election message was that Trump was the guy bringing all the division, causing all the controversy. He wanted people to vote with peace in mind, knowing that normalcy would be brought back. If he was voted in, just bring us old establishment guys guys in who know how to create the mirage of a presidential, good, honest man. Bring back normalcy and try to cool the temperature in the nation. The harsh partisanship that we're currently seeing. So he's that guy, but then he's also the guy who dubs MAGA Republicans as the greatest threat to the American homeland. You know, those two things don't go together. You're either President for all, Mr. Unifier, or you're Mr. Division. You don't get to be divisive on Monday saying, everybody who disagrees with me, all those people who voted for the last guy, yeah, they're crazy people. They're extremists and we should probably sick the FBI on them. Those people at the Capitol simply walking around, those are terrorists. Let's use the might of the DOJ to ruin their lives and put them in solitary confinement for years, finishing them up with serious over-the-top prison sentences. You don't get to be that guy one day, and then the next day, Mr. America, President for all. It's an absolute farce. The whole thing's a frickin' scam. All these narratives of who Joe Biden is supposed to be. You know, like I always say, my view of Donald Trump is simple. He's a flawed man. He has insecurities like anybody else. He's defensive. He's a little bit of a loose cannon, whatever it is. At least I know these things. At least I know who he is because he basically tells us and shows us exactly who he is. I know what to expect. He's a shit-talking New Yorker guy. But with Joe Biden, it's all so fake. It's smoke and mirrors. You know, he's doing his little union tour here ahead of the election, securing all of these union endorsements. He's the guy for the working class, for the little guy. What an absolute scam. You know, the little guy that's 1 month away from bankruptcy. Yay, the little guy who can't afford a home, has to work 2 jobs. The average guy who's getting beat down by this absolute trash economy. Yeah, Joe Biden represents you. What a scam. But didn't you look at the jobs numbers? Oh wow, 300,000 jobs were created in the month of January. Hallelujah. No S, Sherlock. Joe Biden keeps pumping trillions of dollars in excess into the economy. You mean to tell me that if the central bank goes into debt, printing trillions of dollars over the last 3 years and pumping it into the economy, you mean to tell me that we're not going to see a little job creation? It's artificial. You're being scammed. The whole thing is smoke and mirrors. Where's that money going to? It's going to major corporations and all the elitist Washington-connected top 10%, but let's really call it the top 1%, who are raking in billions of dollars in profit thanks to ATM print money nonstop Joe. And what does the middle class get? What does the little guy get? Crippling inflation, massive increased wealth disparities, and as I stated, a growing, corrupt, lobbyist ex-Washington connected, top 1% socialist oligarchy, and the little guy that Joe Biden supposedly represents continues to get poorer. But don't pay attention to that, folks. Pay attention to the phony, union-connected, pro-working class facade. It's all a scam. It's like that thing that you may have seen in the theater world, those 2 masks. When you analyze anyone, look for those 2 masks. Are they playing 2 different characters? One character for one audience and one character for another. If they are, it's major Joe Biden vibes. These people simply cannot be trusted. Hopefully that pretty much seals up the video. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.